You believe that folks with handicaps and physical disabilities should not be able to marry?
No, Senator. I was explaining the meaning of Christ's words that some, to use Christ's terms, are eunuchs by birth, and explaining that the meaning of that verse in the context of those who are called to singleness, and that there are various reasons why individuals don't get married.
But what about folks who are handicapped or who have developmental disabilities?
Senator John Kennedy of Louisiana methodically dismantles judicial nominee Mr. Olson using the man's own words from pulpits, Sunday school classrooms, and church lectures spanning nearly a decade. Kennedy arrived armed with exact dates, specific church locations, and verbatim quotes that forced Olson to confront statements about disabled people and marriage, the definition of sexual perversion, premarital sex as sin, and whether wives are called by God to submit to their husbands. When Kennedy finally asked whether Olson believed every word of the Bible, the answer left the entire hearing room in stunned silence. This video breaks down every segment of the exchange, explains why it matters for the American legal system, and asks the question that every American deserves an answer to: should someone with these beliefs hold a lifetime appointment to the federal bench? Let's dive into the main video.
Mr. Olson, I believe I looked at your resume. You are an elder in the Reformed Presbyterian Church of North America. Is that correct?
I am an ordained elder in the RPCNA. I am not actively serving.
In August of 2015, you gave a sermon at the Second Reformed Presbyterian Church. Do you remember that?
2015, I think that might have been a Sunday school lecture, but I spoke, yes.
During that sermon, you said that marriage was not intended for all people, including, and I'm going to quote your words, our handicapped friends are our persons with physical disabilities that might prevent the robust marriage that we're called to, close quote. Did you say that?
I think I did, Senator, yes.
You believe that folks with handicaps and physical disabilities should not be able to marry?
No, Senator. I was explaining the meaning of Christ's words that some, to use Christ's terms, are eunuchs by birth, and explaining that the meaning of that verse in the context of those who are called to singleness, and that there are various reasons why individuals don't get married.
But what about folks who are handicapped or who have developmental disabilities?
I was using that example as an illustration of why some don't get married, not as a kind of reason why someone shouldn't. It was illustrative of the condition in which some find themselves, but certainly not in any stretch of the imagination suggesting that they couldn't or shouldn't, merely that in some cases they don't.
On July 24, 2022, you gave another sermon at the Columbia Reformed Presbyterian Church. Do you remember that?
The Columbus Reformed Presbyterian Church, yes.
You were speaking about sexuality, is that correct?
I gave two sermons at that church, and the main topic of both of those was not human sexuality.
In one of them you said, quote, transgenderism, homosexuality, fornication, and all sorts of sexual perversions was a form of hypocrisy from, quote, your words, shame on the inside. Did you say that?
I don't recall the precise wording, but that sounds
What did you
familiar.
mean by that?
Yeah, Senator, thanks for the opportunity to clarify that. So I was preaching a sermon on a passage in the Old Testament about an Old Testament King Uzziah who was stricken with leprosy.
I don't have a lot of time, Counselor. Tell me what you meant by that.
Sure, that
Do
many,
you believe that fornication is a form of sexual perversion?
Senator, my personal views, my religious views, what I was speaking at that time were for the edification of the people that I was preaching to. As a judge sitting here today, my obligation is to apply the rule of law.
Yeah, I understand that, but
Constitution.
my obligation is to try to understand you, because this is a lifetime appointment. Do you believe that fornication, which I assume you mean by that the sex act, is a form of sexual perversion?
Senator, the doctrine of the church that I was at does state that fornication is a sin.
Well, what do you mean by fornication?
Any sexual act outside of the bounds of marriage.
Okay. So you believe premarital sex is a sexual perversion?
Senator, my personal views, as many have said before, I won't comment, but the doctrine of the church that I belong to.
Is it your doctrine?
I took, as an elder, I took a vow.
Is it your doctrine?
As an elder of the RPCA.
Is it your doctrine?
Senator, my personal views as a judge are not the object of what I would rule upon.
Give me one more minute, please, Mr. Chairman. On August the 23rd, 2015, you spoke in Sunday school, and you said, quote, "I'm not saying women can't have careers. That's not what I'm saying." No, strike that. I'm reading the wrong quote. I apologize. In your talks at your Sunday school, you said that God, quote, has called wives to be subject to their husband, end quote, and to, quote, serve the good of your husband and support his calling, close quote. Did you say that?
I gave a couple Sunday school lectures around that time. I don't recall the particular one, but I think I recall saying something along those lines.
What did you mean by that?
So in Christian marriage, as explained by the apostles, I was describing our church's understanding of what Christian marriage ought to look like.
And you believe Christian marriage provides that women have to be subservient to their husbands?
Senator, I think I was quoting either a passage in Ephesians or those are not my words. Those are words in the
Well, you
scriptures
said them.
that I
Do you
was.
believe them?
Senator, I believe every word of the Bible.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
What Senator John Kennedy did in that hearing room was something far more important, far more consequential, and far more courageous than most people in that chamber have the nerve to do. He stood up for the people who were not in the room. He stood up for the disabled Americans who deserve to have their dignity protected by the very courts designed to protect it. He stood up for women who deserve a judge who sees them as equals under the law, not as biblical subordinates to their husbands. He stood up for every unmarried couple, every LGBTQ individual, every person whose life could one day be placed in the hands of a lifetime appointee sitting behind a federal bench. Kennedy came prepared in a way that should set the standard for every confirmation hearing going forward. He did not rely on rumor, reputation, or political assumption. He brought receipts, he brought dates, church names, sermon topics, and direct quotations, and he used every single one of them to ask the most fundamental question a senator can ask. Who is this person, really, beneath the polished confirmation hearing answers and the carefully rehearsed deflections? Because here is the truth that Kennedy understood better than anyone else in that room. A nominee can promise neutrality all day long. A nominee can say, over and over again, that personal views will never influence judicial decisions. But when a man has stood before a congregation and linked physical disability to an inability to participate in what he called robust marriage, when that same man has described premarital sex as sexual perversion from a pulpit, And when he is taught that wives are called by God to be subject to their husbands, and then looks a United States senator in the eye and says he believes every word of the Bible, that is not a private theological position anymore. That is a window into a worldview. And worldviews have consequences in courtrooms. Senator Kennedy did what democracy demands. He reminded every American watching that confirmation hearings exist for exactly this reason. Not as a formality, not as a rubber stamp, but as the last line of democratic accountability before a single individual is handed a lifetime of unchecked legal power.